Okay, everybody, here we are. Welcome to Larry Lawton's podcast with Michael Keel?
Michael Kalb.
Kalb, as I pronounce it. And before I get started, check us out on the YouTube member programs, the Patreon program. You know, I got to meet Michael through Steve, who was the Libertarian president of Florida. And he told me a quick story. He said that you, and this is true, if anybody ever heard in 2016, I think it was, when 2012, when Romney was running for president with who was his running mate? What was his running mate? Was it Sarah Palin? No, that was McCain.
That was McCain with Sarah Palin.
Wow, I don't even know. Wow, I used to know all that. Anyway, what happened, Michael, was he had this big, infamous, I guess, a fundraiser, and he ended up saying that he don't care about 47% of the population. Now, what happened there was that went viral. It went on the air, and he got really slammed for it. I heard you were the one that, you want to call it, instigated it, or you were there and it started. You can tell us about that.
You know, I'm glad that's not going to be my 15 minutes of fame in life, because nobody could put the sound of my voice to the name or the face when that happened. But yeah, we were at this fundraising event. It was a dinner party for Mitt Romney, who, by the way, is a really great guy, has great conviction. Really respect him. And the topic of discussion was relating around how the government at that time was providing a whole bunch of programs and incentives to people that didn't necessarily need them in order to garner some votes. And so I had simply asked the question of Mitt, hey, you got all these people who are benefiting from all these government programs, and those government programs are being set up just to make sure they have their votes. How do you get people to actually become responsible for themselves, and instead of trying to focus on the government programs, focus on living their lives better? Now, this wasn't the words that I used, but that led to his comments, starting with the 47%, he just can't, be responsible for in terms of the elections. Not one of the highest moments that I feel in my own personal journey. But then again, I'm only the one that asked the question. I'm not the one that answered it. He just didn't do it eloquently, for sure.
Obviously, you didn't know it was being
No, nobody knew that it was being taped. So, yeah.
I gotcha. So now, what happened? Have you heard from Mitt Romney?
No, it's been quite some time.
I mean, did you get to know him as a person?
From a business standpoint, I knew Mitt because of my prior career at my former private equity firm. He was a great supporter of my former firms, and so that's how I got to know him. He's a passionate guy. He's a really good guy, but that's quite some time ago. That's when I was involved in Republican politics. Today, I'm no longer Republican. I'm a Libertarian. I've since moved on.
As I am. I became a Libertarian after not only talking to Steve. I think most people are Libertarians. Like you and I, the reason I wanted you on to show people that people can change, still be successful, do what they want, and follow their convictions, if you want to call it that. That was a good one before when you said, like, Mitt follows his convictions, whatever they are.
Yeah, I actually think if Mitt were really to sit down and think about it, he should actually become part of the Libertarian Party, because I think that's where his values would align. But when
especially with today's Republican Party.
Even forget about today's Republican. It's not even the Republican Party anymore. And it'd be interesting to see what comes out of the last couple of years. But, being a Libertarian, to me, once I became self-aware, once I went through my own journey of self-actualization, I realized neither of the establishment parties fit where my beliefs are and where my interests are. And the Libertarian Party, which is about liberty, I should be able to do what I want without oppression. It's about freedom. I should live my life the way I want to live my life. It's about, being able to make my own life personally how I feel I should. I am gay. I live a gay life as an openly proud gay man today. This party, libertarianism, is about respecting that. It's about respecting you as an individual, and what you do is your business, what I do is my business. And that's what government should be. Government should be out of the way so people can live their lives the way they want to live their lives.
You know, I always say that both parties, and this is where they fail, they say like the Republican Party used to be very fiscally conservative, and that's how the Tea Party came in action in 2010. But they'd be very fiscally conservative and less government, get out of your business, but then they want government in abortion. They want government in prayer or whatever it is. And that's wanting it only when you want it. It's not wanting it when, in other words, I don't want government in my business either. Mm-hmm. Now, if I don't want government in my business, I don't want them as a Democrat or a Republican. That goes from certain help things. Listen, I love helping people. We talked about that before the show. But I also want people, I don't want lazy people. I want people to work hard. I think people should all have to do the right thing to get ahead in life. Mm-hmm. And in, you know, why I think most people are libertarians. Because most people don't give a fuck that you're gay. Or don't give a fuck that this guy does this. Or what drugs a person does in their own house. Now, if you commit a crime to do drugs, you should go to jail. I say that.
It is clearly, as long as what you're doing doesn't negatively impact somebody else, you should be able to do it. No question about it. The establishment parties are two sides of the same coin. They need each other to survive. They feed off of each other. They don't want a third party to actually start to gain influence in our affairs as a country, but it's exactly what this country needs right now.
You know, after speaking to Steve and you for a little bit, there's more people like you, us, whatever, that believe what we believe. And how do we get my audience to understand that? Is it just by telling them what it is? Because everybody thinks they have to become a party. You know, when I was a young kid, I was a young Republican. Listen, the Republican Party is they are so out of whack. I often say, at least the Democrats are still the Democrats. Republicans, I don't know what the fuck they are. I really don't. I used to like the traditional Republican. You know, he had some kind of, hey, listen, the debt's going to rise, your kid's going to pay for this. Last 4 years, they didn't give a fuck about the debt. They didn't even say one word about it.
Look at how much money has been spent during the last administration. They cannot claim to be fiscally responsible.
And you remember Grover Norquist? You remember him? He used to make all the politicians sign a no raise taxes. I'll never raise taxes. That was his big thing. So I'm just at the point where I want to talk to more people, talk about their stories, and why did you become a Republican in the first place?
You know, I grew up in a liberal household, and I was the one Republican in a very Democratic household. This is going to sound...
Wait. You're a gay man in a Democratic household, mm-hmm. but you become a Republican.
Right. So...
Okay, that just messed everything up with my head.
Well, you gotta understand the background a little bit. I did not embrace my sexuality until... Well, almost about 10 years ago is when I started to embrace my sexuality. I came out, when I was 43 years old. Even though I grew up in a liberal household and I didn't perceive any homophobia with my parents, all the messaging around me, all the socialization around me was anti-gay. It was, berating those who were gay. It was
even not meaningful.
Look, the AIDS crisis. I grew up in the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s watching all that, around me. And so there was that bit of me who I was as a person who I wasn't able to accept. I wasn't able to embrace that at the time. But on the other side, I was very much interested in capitalism. I was very much interested in being an entrepreneur. I was very much interested in building my own successful business. That's what I was interested in. When I was 16 years old, I would sit at the table reading the Wall Street Journal. Who the heck at 16 years old is sitting at the table reading the Wall Street Journal? That's what I did. So There was those two sides of me, but wanting to achieve financial success wasn't in alignment with being gay growing up in the 80s. And so I had to repress my sexuality if I wanted to achieve that goal.
I often tell parents who come to me and they have a troubled kid, I said, listen to me, you don't know why he's troubled. Does he have sexual identity issues? Is he being bullied? Does he have self-confidence issues? A lot of them. And a lot of parents say, well, I don't give a shit if he is gay. I wouldn't care what he is. And I believe that. But what they don't understand is when they're looking at a TV show and they go, oh, look at that faggot. Or whatever innuendos, not meaning it.
Every negative comment goes to build shame in people that are gay. Or wherever they are on the spectrum of the LGBTQ community. You know, every little nuance gets buried deep down inside, and it forces people to build a wall. It forces them to build an emotional wall where they want to repress who they are because of all the shame that they're feeling.
But let me give the flip side of that. Do you think that made you successful?
No question about it.
It pushed you towards...
I took all of my emotional energy, and look, I made some mistakes. You know, I have 2 children who don't talk to me anymore. You know, I love them dearly. Hopefully they, at some point, will recognize, you know, that I am sorry for what happened. But
you are who you are.
I am, but I took all that emotional energy, and instead of being able to apply it to family, I applied it to my career. And that was what drove me. And I had, instead of being able to build personal confidence in my private life, I built confidence in my professional life by succeeding in my professional life and by pushing away my personal life.
So wow. So you're almost trying to say it's hard to do them both.
Today I could do it both. Once I became self-aware, once I went through my own process of self-actualization, once I've been able to place everything in the respective places in life, absolutely. But back then, when I was dealing with the shame, when I was confronted with all the homophobia, couldn't do it then.
Do you think today it's easier for a young person than it was back in 20 years or 30 years ago? Wow, 30 years.
I think there's been tremendous progress, but the issues still are there. You know, until there's a comprehensive reform bill that provides equality for everybody.
True equality.
True
you
equality.
You can put all the bills together you want. You can put all the laws together you want. It's changing people. You know, well, the best thing I like about this channel is I get the voice to try to help people and change people. And I was telling you earlier about Discord, and the guys here on the channel know about it. I love it. Discord is a place where it's a server, and I set the server up, and I have rules. The rules are very no disparaging comments, no prejudices, no now and they have different rooms, but there's no hate. Nobody cares if you say the word fuck or anything, you know, but because there's no limited. Mm-hmm. But you can't go there and say, oh, these fucking faggots or these persons. You can't do that on mine. You cannot do that. You will get kicked off because I set that up. It's called Discord. So I like having that voice to try to help people open their eyes. What I want to know is how can we change? I'm trying to do it. How can we change it in a bigger way than Larry Lawton?
Right.
Like you said, pass a law. I mean, laws.
Yep. Even listening to the show right now, you know, you using the term faggot, although you're using it in the respect of trying to show people,
you know, words
that
word.
Right, your words that hurt people. Somebody's listening to that, and they're saying, "This is why I gotta stay inside. This is why I gotta be in the closet." You know, regardless of what the context is going to be, and that messaging is still prevalent in society today. It's not going to disappear just because there's bills or just because the laws say, you know, that you shouldn't be disparaging people and that people should have equal access and everything. But you know, go look at a commercial and you watch a family with a mother and a father and 2 kids, you know, going to a store. You know, look at movies which reflect what life is supposed to be like as part of a family. You know, there is a heteronormative script that everybody's confronted with too. It is changing, and opinions are changing, and there is support now. It's been a slow process, but there's still more to do. It's not like, you know, if I talk to younger generations who are gay, and I would say to them, oh, you have no idea, you know, how easy you guys have it. The fights I would get into with them.
Oh,
you know,
really?
They're like, okay,
today, you mean?
Yeah. Even today, you know, people still find it difficult to come out. People still find it difficult to embrace their sexuality.
Well, you know, you do see it with athletes, and you do see it with celebrities, and they're notable, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's sad. You know, there was one article I read where the person came out and they all accepted him, but then all of a sudden the script stopped coming and the roles for that thing stopped coming.
Yeah.
But now, a part of me says...
Well, let's actually, even in corporate America, I'm in the financial world, right? I spent 20 years in private equity working with another firm. I now run my own private equity firm. There has been a lot of progress in finance, accepting and embracing LGBTQ, professional members. But just 2 years ago, a friend of mine was fired at another financial firm once they found out he was gay. Stuff like that still goes on.
I thought they weren't allowed to do that.
No, there's no federal law prohibiting that.
I thought there was. See,
there's a misconception because of all the progress that's been made. People think, you have
to do that, right?
Yeah, it's states by states have enacted certain laws. In Florida today, you could still get fired for being gay, and there's no repercussions against you.
Just because you go to your employee and say I'm gay, he could say, well, now you're fired.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might come up with another reason because I think that would be pretty bad PR.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not like you could try and go and sue and win that fight.
I was reading articles about this, and I was just reading articles because when I look at a successful person, I try to figure out why they're successful. You really put your energy towards, I guess, not confronting what you are or who you are or what. And I get that. That's important. So I'm trying to look at young people who listen to my show and say to them, listen, nobody hates you. Nobody wants you bad,
But by the way,
how do you do that?
I do want to.
Things can get fired.
You know what? I do want to make one clarification. The Supreme Court did rule that in terms of equal protections, sexuality is protected. Okay,
right.
On a federal level. Okay, so I should clarify that. However, it's not comprehensive. It doesn't cover housing. It doesn't cover the military. It doesn't cover other aspects of life. So I do want to make that clarification that the Supreme Court did rule that. However, that wasn't legislatively done, so there still needs to be a legislative process that needs to be gone through to actually get a full comprehensive plan in place that protects people.
Well, I agree because, we're going through a bunch of stuff now. Again, Biden just repealed some transgender things with the military and stuff. I didn't really understand it because as a military man, I never even thought about it. You know what I mean? Like that. I mean, some people... See, I grew up in New York City. We didn't give a fuck who you are. I mean, if you lived on our block, you were good. If you didn't, you weren't. I mean, it's just simple as that. I didn't see the prejudices until I came south. And I don't know if you saw the same thing.
We got to bifurcate South Florida from that because South Florida is its own world.
New York.
There's still issues in the South. There are still, negative views towards the LGBTQ community in southern areas, and that's still prevalent. But going back to what you were asking about, why did I become a libertarian? Once I embraced who I was as an individual, I then had to go through a process of reevaluating everything that I was involved with, ancillary to just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And, one of those was...
all that you belong to and all that.
Yeah, and one of those was my party affiliation, and did I really feel that the Republicans represented who I was as an individual? They represent from a fiscal standpoint. They used to represent from a fiscal standpoint what I believed in. From a capitalistic standpoint, they used to represent that. But from a social aspect, it didn't reflect who I was. And it wasn't that I was just letting them, pounce me on my head throughout the whole time, being anti-gay. I just ignored it.
But what about the log cabin Republicans? Aren't they a gay movement in the Republican Party?
I do not agree with their approach.
Well, I don't even know their approach, to be honest with you.
Look, there's various organizations that are conservative gay organizations that I hold in much higher regard than the log cabins.
The reason I'm
the log cabins, look, Trump goes out and eliminates transgenders from the military, and the log cabin Republicans are sitting there saying Trump's one of the greatest presidents to the LGBTQ community. That's a hypocrisy that I just couldn't relate to.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That out. Well, let's get back to libertarian because how do we? Because I'm a libertarian. And I came on my show and said I was a libertarian because I believe in, if I want to do drugs, I'm going to take it that level, some kids or whatever. If I want to do drugs in my house, I don't care what it is. And I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not stealing them. I'm not doing it. Why should that be illegal? That's how it shouldn't. Right. That's how I agreed with being a libertarian. And it's not because I'm a drug addict, because I'm not a drug addict. But it's a point of true freedom. Why are you telling me what to do in my own house?
When I was able to release myself from all of the socialization and all the exposure to the heteronormative script that I was exposed to growing up, that created the foundation as I was, becoming an adult, and I became self-aware, I was then able to think for myself and align my own values to a party that I felt reflected them, and that was the Libertarian Party.
Well, what I want everybody out there to do is actually look up Libertarian Party, what it means and where they're at, and how. Okay, let's go even further. You're a libertarian. We need, if it's going to be a legitimate party, I mean, it's a legitimate party, but it's not at the levels, and I think we need a third party. I really do. We need guys like you to say, you know what? I'm going to run for office. I'm going to run for the local school board. I'm going to run for the local councilman where you live. I'm going to run for the city commissioner or whatever they have in your local area to bring your views to more and more people in a public forum and fight for those rights that I think more people will start saying, wait a minute, this guy's more aligned with me. The Republican Party isn't, or the Democratic Party isn't. Why aren't I becoming a libertarian?
It certainly needs to be a grassroots effort. There's no question about that. It's got to start in the local communities. It's got to start in the hometowns, and people got to work their way up. You got to start, as you said, at the municipal level, then go to maybe a county level, go to a state level, and evolve from there. But it is a small party today. But the party actually has a tremendous opportunity with all of the disenfranchisement that exists in establishment politics. I don't care whether it's Democrats or Republicans, because both actually, when you look at what the libertarians mean, have a home. As long as you're nonviolent, as long as you respect other people's views and opinions, and you don't try to enforce your views and opinions on them, there's a place in the Libertarian Party for you.
Okay, in that regard, we just talked about what happened in GameStop, how the internet took over and showed the big boys, hey, we're here. That's pretty much what they said. Hey, we're the little guy, we're the $10 guy, or whatever, but we're here, motherfuckers. I hate to get cursing, but that's me. My channel knows it. But I think the Libertarian Party has to, guys like me who become libertarians, use our platforms and use the internet and use the places to build this, because I'm a believer in young people. That's just my always am. A lot of people, guys our age, these young kids, they don't know shit. That just eats at me, because young people, in my opinion, are so smart. They have drive. I'm reading about it today. Larry, I believe in them.
Young people can be a tremendous disruptive force that can evolve where we are and help us progress towards where we should be. Established parties, the establishment parties, have lost their way. And it's not going to be, the seniors in the established parties who have been there forever that are going to make the changes. It's going to be, younger generation who have the audacity, the motivation, the drive, and the will to actually see things evolve to make it a better place for everybody.
Well, they got a bigger stake in it. Let's face it, I'm 59 years old. I got 20 years left to live. Those kids got 50, 60 years left to live. And I encourage them all the time. I want to vote when they hit 18 to get there and get their vote. Because I talked to them, I said, listen, you guys have no idea how much power you have. You want pot legal? Young people do that. My mother's not going to do that. I mean, she don't care, actually, my mother. but the older person's not going to do that.
Yep.
You want gay rights. The younger people don't give it. Before I came here, I was talking to a couple of people. nobody gives a shit. Meaning, nobody cares if somebody's gay or not today. Young people. Nobody cares, Michael. And I like that. I mean, the younger generation. You get the older generation. I think it's a macho bravado. I think they worry about their own feelings, their own,
yeah.
You know.
But again, it's because they've all been exposed to the religious doctrine. They've been exposed to the heteronormative script. They've been socialized, and that's what they know. That's what they were taught. But younger generations are more open-minded today. They have more of an ability to actually be self-aware earlier on than you and I did when we were youngsters. And you're 59, I'm 50. You just said you have another 20 years left. I better have another 40 years left.
Oh, you want extra more than me? I hear you. Well, I'll take 20 healthy. How's that healthy? I have a question. Do we? How do we help, or how do we expose, besides the internet and grassroots? Is it by getting guys like you and Steve, the guy we met? That's how we, our mutual friend. Yep. He's young. Steve's 25. Smart. Very smart. Ambitious. I think he's got to run.
Oh, I was with him a couple weeks ago, and I told him, I said, Steve, you've got to run for office. He's doing a tremendous amount of work for the Libertarian Florida Party, and he's got great results. He's building the base here, but he now needs to step up to the plate and run. My career is advanced. I've got my business that I'm focusing on. That's my number one priority, but I'm taking an active role in local government. That is not going to involve, I'm not looking to run for the President of the United States one day or anything like that, but I want to try and be influential where I can, but keeping my priorities aligned where they are. And if I could be helpful to the Libertarian Party to help them with their goals and objectives by bringing other people in, by leading by example, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, but Michael, what you do, what I believe you need to do is guys like you who are libertarians, who have the brains, obviously speak very well. You can tell you're educated. You understand the issues. It's very obvious. My audience will say, "Oh, that guy's smart." I know my audience, and you are, and I've talked to you enough. But you have to go there and then do the right thing when you're in there to show people this is what a libertarian is. Because we can talk about libertarianism all we want, but when the Republican gets there and the Democrat gets there, and they all do the same shit over and over, how do we say to someone, we need more libertarians?
Yeah, look, there needs to be more people like myself who are willing to draw a line in the sand and, make efforts.
Your reputation, your money.
Exactly, and that is what I'm doing. In many respects, I just got put on my local budget advisory board at the local municipality. So I'm not only just, trying to support financially, I'm not only trying to support through organizations, I'm also actually trying to do it myself as well, as much as I can, given where my priorities in life are today. Who knows where things go 10 years from now, but right now I'm focused on today. As well, you have to break the duopoly that the establishment parties have on our political system. The Democrats and the Republicans, they are a duopoly. They do control the politics here. Look at the debates from the last elections. The debates were the two parties. They wouldn't allow Joe Jorgensen in to debate. I actually helped support a committee, an American Committee for Debates, to help try and break that logjam so that we could get other people on that debate stage so people can see what the real alternatives are.
Well, they did let some lady on there at one point. I don't know what she was. She was on the debate stage once.
Not in this past election.
Yes, this last one. A lady with red hair. I'll get her name. I should have looked it up. We were talking about it. Is Ron Paul a libertarian?
I believe Ron Paul's a libertarian.
Then I don't get why he goes with some of the things he does with restrictions and stuff like he does. He's kind of like hurts my end of. If that's a fucking real libertarian,
I think he has let the established politics interfere with what he truly believes in. Look at his family, what he grew up with. He is in the Republican Party trying to play the game, and I think he's lost his way.
You said it nice. I mean, there's some things he comes out and I like, obviously. But then when there's certain things, I said, that is not even close to being a libertarian. And then I look and I say, well, if that's what people are looking at and saying, oh, that's a libertarian, he's just a Republican, just go to be a Republican anyway. What's the difference? Because what hurts us as libertarians, you can't vote in a primary. Which I think is wrong. How can you? Yeah, a whole system needs revamping. But how do you revamp a system when they run the system and they're never going to vote themselves at all? It's like, I ask people, I says, we need term limits. Big believer in term limits. Are they going to vote themselves out of a job? Because that's what they're doing.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't actually Ted Cruz bring up term limits?
Yeah. What is
wait, that's one of the few things he actually said that I agree with.
yeah. But then why doesn't he? When's your term up? I mean, how many you want, Ted, or whatever it is? You know, I had a Republican congressman I know very well. I won't even mention his name, and he did the same thing. I'm going to run for this many, and all of a sudden they run again. Why?
I think the greatest politicians are those that can't run for another term. That's when they make the decisions that they have conviction in.
They speak their mind.
That's right. That's when they are doing things, based on their own values versus doing things because they have to win the next election.
Now, do you think that's just the parties controlling them? Do you think that could happen with the Libertarian Party?
I think that's a bridge the Libertarians should cross if they could actually get to that point.
Yeah, good point. In other words, we need to get somebody up there.
Yeah.
Now, how do we expand on, okay, we're in Florida, but this show's all over the world. How do we expand the Libertarian Party with pure numbers? Is it just, do somebody go out there? If I have an audience member, says, I'm looking at these guys. I want to Google Libertarian Party. I want to look at stuff. Because I'm telling you guys out there, everybody, I became a Libertarian because I am fiscally conservative to a degree. I still want to help people. No woman in this country should ever eat cat food. So I don't hear about, they made their blood. Fuck that. No woman or no person in this country should eat cat food. It shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have what we have. But I believe that if I want to do something to me, and that means like the drugs or the sex or whatever it is, who should give a fuck? If two people want to marry and they're guys, I don't care if they. I love the line, oh, what's next? A donkey and a man get married? Who gives a fuck? How's that? I don't give a shit. You want to marry a donkey? Have fun. What do I care? I don't get it. I don't get why people want to be in your business. I really don't get that. And I think there's a lot of guys on my station, I guess, I'm my agent myself, on my channel that are like that believe what we believe. And I want to know, when they go, do they register as a libertarian? And when they get there, do they just, now they can't vote, they get once every 4 years, they can't vote in there's nobody running. Look, what do you do? I
personally don't want to vote in primaries if it's not my party that I'm voting for. And so it doesn't bother me if I'm not voting, for the Democratic primaries or I'm voting for the Republican primaries.
So you don't care who wins?
The primaries, no. No, I want to make sure that we put up the best candidate possible that could represent the libertarian values, and that's the person I'm going to vote for.
But now, okay, would you take the best that's closest to it?
No.
Oh, so you're hard on, it's a libertarian or not?
Yeah, I am, I don't believe in the notion of voting for the lesser of two evils. That's absolutely throwing away a vote. People would argue that I'm throwing my way a vote because I was voting for Joe during this last presidential election. Absolutely not. You're throwing away your vote because you're not voting based on your conviction. You're voting because you think you're voting for somebody who's the lesser of two evils. That's not how you're supposed to vote. You got to vote with your conviction.
I got that. Now, what do you think about money in politics?
Look, it's.
I mean, how do we tackle that? They've had 200 years, close, the Whig Party and all that, and you go back, I was researching that.
Yeah, but keep in mind, the Libertarian Party was effectively founded, in 1970, 71, something like that. So it's still a young party, but it is a grassroots effort. Yes, it needs to have the financial wherewithal to support its candidates in the elections. But as more people become disenfranchised with the established parties and they start to recognize, if they are self-aware and they have conviction that they are actually more aligned with libertarianism than the other two parties have to offer, that actually can enable more people to come to the party and provide more financial support for the party. It's young, it's got to grow, it's got to evolve, but it's got to start down there.
So don't you think we should get young people to start running for local offices?
Oh, absolutely. But that's what the organization is doing. That's what Steve's working on. Steve's working on in Florida to build the Florida Libertarian Party so that you've got people running in all the municipalities and all the cities all the way up to the state level and then going from there. That's exactly what's happening. You don't see it. It's not front and center because the Republicans and the Democrats are taking all that media exposure, but that's what's happening.
Well, we got to change that right here in a lot of places because we do. And, it's funny because I never got into the politics deep because, again, I was a Republican and then I was a Democrat and I don't even know it. Then I said I'm neither. I totally said, then I said I was an independent. Fuck it, I'm an independent. What's an independent? Well, if I'm going to go to someone who's got more of my values, like you said, more who I am, it's going to be the people who believe in the things I believe in. And obviously it's the Libertarian Party. So my next thought was, okay, how do we get young people to start going in and register and just, whether you win, lose or not, and give it a whirl and get the media exposure, like you said, and don't do the stupid shit that they're doing because people are getting disenfranchised. Look at what's happened.
But the younger generation needs to have conviction that they want to see change, and they have they have to recognize they have the power to make it happen.
But you know as well as I do, when we're younger, we are influenced so much. Obviously,
look,
you said
go into a classroom. Your teacher's influencing what political affiliation you have. You go home to dinner. Your parents are influencing what political affiliation you have. Are those influences talking about libertarianism? No. They're talking about establishment politics, either Democrats or Republicans. Think about over 400 million people. How could this country, with all the varying interests that people have, with all the varying values that people have, be aligned to just two parties? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I often said that in politics. What always confused me is when one guy, congressman, whoever, or name it, pull a name out of a hat, and he always votes with the Republicans. You're telling me no Democratic ideas are good? And then the same thing with a Democrat. Democrat votes all Democrat, and all of a sudden you say no Republican idea is good? It's bullshit.
Look, it's because they're holding their nuts in a fucking vice. Sorry, I shouldn't be using that language.
You're right.
And if they don't vote a certain way, then they're going to lose the ability to get what they want on other issues that are important to them. That's how politics works.
And I get it. So do you think if we get more libertarians in office, don't you think they're going to have to align? Just because the system, like Ron Paul, he caucuses with the Republicans. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't he caucus with the Democrats?
You could have to ask him that.
My point is...
No, I hear you, but you've got, again, going back to what I said before, you got to cross that bridge. We're not even at the bridge yet. You got to get to that point where you have that influence. I'll be ecstatic if we get to the point where we have that type of influence in the Libertarian Party.
Well, I'm thinking about young people who they say, hey, listen, you're 25 years old, you're out there, you're starting to think about yourself, you come to grips with who you are, whatever it is, and then you say, I agree with Larry and Michael. I'm going to run for office because I believe in this, and I have friends, and I'm going to get on the internet, and I'm going to ask Larry for help, and we're going to internet everybody, we're going to blast people, we're going to do what we can do, and we're going to help. And I told people I would. Then they get there, and they, like you said, they have to have their convictions, but...
If somebody has gone through the effort to become self-aware, to release the shackles of socialization, and to really reflect what their values are and understand what their values are, and then want to see their values applied to the rest of the country, then they should have the conviction and the fortitude to fight for those values.
But do you think young people just don't do it because they're too young, they're not mature enough?
Well, there's no question that is one of the challenges, but at the same time, they're also passionate about what they believe. And then they get disenfranchised when what they believe gets hammered down on their head saying, you're not supposed to believe that. You're not supposed to think that way. And it's, you got to overcome that. They have to have the confidence to overcome that. I wish I had the early confidence in life
That you do now.
to overcome that I do now. Yeah, that's life experience, I guess.
Well, yeah, I always say there's nothing. I talk about this on the channel. I said the only thing I have over my audience is experience of a place you don't want to go.
Right.
And not many people have more of that. So I try to tell them, you have a young kid who's 12, and he has a 16-year-old brother. I said, are you smarter than your brother? Oh, I know more than him. Yeah. But the old one says he ain't been through it yet. So it's experience that always counts. Now, us at our age, we've been through so much.
That just reminds me of a funny story with my father, where my father, I used to think I knew everything when I was a kid. I mean, my father used to yell at me, you're such a wise ass, you think you fucking know everything, wait until you get on in life. And I used to sit there when I was young saying, what are you talking about? Of course I know everything. You know what? 50 years into it, now I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I often tell people, a 20-year-old says, I know it all. He hits 30, he looks back and says, well, what a fucking idiot I was. Right. When you hit 40, you look back and go, man, I was still stupid at 30.
Yep.
You hit 50, you go, am I ever going to learn anything?
Actually, I hit 50 and say, now I'm going to take everything I've learned and try and apply it in a good way.
Yeah, well, that's why we need more people in the Libertarian Party. We need more people who, I know you keep coming back to convictions, but you also have to have that determination. Mm-hmm. You have
ambition.
to have that will, ambition,
mm-hmm.
and it's that kind of work ethic. And is there areas? This is a good question for you, because you're getting more and more into the Libertarian Party, I could see. Is there areas these people can go? Is it just the website? I mean, obviously websites do everything.
No, clearly you could go to the websites. You could get involved in the local organizations. Like in Broward County here. Mike Smith runs an incredible organization here that people can get involved with.
Are you involved?
Oh, of course, I'm involved.
In the Libertarian Party of Broward County.
I'm involved. I'm on the board of the Libertarian Party of Broward County.
Are they putting up candidates to run?
They are working towards doing that. Again, it's a grassroots effort. Right now, they're working towards getting people to join boards, to get involved in their local politics, and to recognize that they can actually.
I'm being the
right. But again, I'm leading by example. I'm on the Broward committee. I actually made the decision. I am going to go and run for a local board seat, and that's what I did, and I got it, and I got the approval of all the commissioners to take this position, and everybody knows I'm an independent. Everybody knows I'm a libertarian.
You're not independent.
I'm sorry, I'm a libertarian.
Yeah, well, I used to say that all the time. I had to catch myself.
You know what? That's right, because when I left the Republican Party probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I was an independent for quite some time until I finally realized my convictions were going to lead me to the Libertarian Party. So the Libertarian Party, while it's not independent for me, for most people who don't understand the party, they view it as you're independent.
I do agree with that. But now I've learned a lot from Steve, and even sitting with you. And I wanna, obviously at my age, I thought about running. I literally had a platform. People wanted me to run for Congress. And I says, they said, you could win. We have everything. You have the funding. You have everything.
Look, you've got the background. You got the history. You got the exposure.
I sure do.
There's been a lot of interesting characters who've been running.
Oh, I don't know.
But you've got. You know what? It's important to have the right moral foundation.
I actually got that.
You do have. I'm saying you do have that. With all the experience you have in life, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, you've got the moral foundation, and you could actually make a difference if you were to run. I'm saying when you look at some of the other people who are in office today, some of them were part of the insurrection that just happened. They don't have the moral foundation, and they got elected. So imagine what you could actually accomplish.
Well, here's my problem. I thought about really doing it, really getting serious. And a lot of people said that, Larry, we got it, the people. I think I'd have a problem. I think I can do more good than I'm doing now.
Well, then you found your home. You found what you can contribute if that's what you have your conviction in. Again, right. I'm a big proponent of conviction. But if your conviction were to run, I think you could. I think you'd be able to do it.
Well, I really do think. I think I could. But like I said, I just think I can do more good helping people run. Mm-hmm. I want to help you run. I want to help Steve run. I want to help.
Well, I'm not discussing running in my mind anytime soon.
Well, did we just declare on this show that you're running for your...
I said in 10 years' time.
Oh, I thought we had something we're going to put out there. Michael Kalb is
10 years time. Right now, I've got to focus on other priorities.
Where do you live?
I live in Wilton Manors.
Okay, so the Wilton Manors has county. Curious, is it its own city?
Wilton Manors is a nonpartisan city. So
there's no Republican Democrat.
I mean, people might be one or the other, but they're not partisan races in Wilton Manors.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So there's no D next to your name or no R next to your name or L.
Yep. But people, look for support, whether you're Democrat or Republican. They do look support, from those respective parties. But it is.
I think
it is a
probably a Democratic more.
I think it's probably 50-50.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a large gay community there, but that community is
doesn't
not.
Doesn't mean all gays are Democrats.
No, but it also, that community is only part of the community. There's a broader community as well. My sense is about 50-50, talking to people and getting to know the community.
So how long have you been in Wilton Manors?
Only a year. I was living in London for 10 years. I left my prior firm. I went on garden leave. I did
you went flying planes around the country and stuff.
Well, first I went to Central America and did the proverbial. I'm going to hang out on the beach for a little bit. and then I came back here.
How was that?
Oh, it was great. It was.
You had a great tan, didn't you?
You know what? It really helped me solidify where my values are and really establish myself. And it was a much needed break after the prior 10 years when I was going through the transition, accepting my sexuality, going through a divorce, etc. It was just an important part of just needing to escape. And I'm fortunate to have had that opportunity to do it. I came back here, went back to school, got my pilot's license, flew around the country. My garden leave ended, and then I went back and started my own firm, and that's what I'm doing now.
Well, I give you a lot of credit. Obviously, not just for coming out or anything like that, because I think everyone has to do that at their own time, own pace. It's for just embracing, trying to help more people, helping the Libertarian Party, getting involved with people, trying to figure out your own way.
I'm a self-starter, and I have an attitude that if something needs to get done, I'm probably the best person to do it. And maybe, I'll make a lot of mistakes along the way. But
you'll learn from them.
Right, but that's my attitude, and that's why I've gotten so involved with the Libertarian Party, and I'm so passionate about it. Because I inherently believe in it, and I inherently believe that when people understand what liberty is really about, not just throwing it around as a catchphrase, what freedom is, how this country was built on capitalism. When people truly understand that I should be me, you should be you, and you shouldn't be worried about how I'm living my life, and I'm not going to worry about how you're living your life, people get it.
I totally agree with that, and I believe what you just said. And I want to go back one thing with, what do you think? What in your life gave you the best? What made you so successful? Was it drive? Was it work ethic? Was it obviously brains? What would you say gave you the impetus to be a successful man?
Always getting back up when I got knocked down. That, I think, is what made me successful. I got knocked down time and time again, and every single time I did, I got back up, I brushed it off, I tried to learn from the experience.
It's funny because the more I talk to different people, and I talk to ex-felons, and I talk to people who've made it like yourself, who changed and came out, whatever they did, there's a couple of core things that I've found out. And obviously that one's a good one. That was a very, keep getting up. That was me. Keep getting up. Keep getting up. Also, work ethic, like what you do. Like a lot of them just said I had a passion for it.
You got to have a passion. Those are kind of cliche things.
No,
at
but
this
they're
point,
not.
they're real.
People do things for money. You make a lot of money in your life.
Yeah.
So, you could say, I did it for money, and people say, wow, smart guy, did it for money. But were you happy?
Wait, but you know what? I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the confidence, to build the confidence.
Oh.
That's why I did it. The money was the reward for doing it, but it was to build my own confidence.
So you think it's, I guess, confidence and keep getting up.
Yeah.
You're going to get knocked down.
Well, I was working with somebody, this is going back about 15 years ago, and he once told me, he says, Mike, I've never seen somebody take so many punches as you and just keep getting back up. And when he said that to me, it just resonated with me, and I said, "Yep, that's it."
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, before we close here, what advice would you give my young audience and my whole audience? My audience is younger than us. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give them?
I would say you have to trust your own convictions. If something doesn't smell right, doesn't feel right, if you hear something that doesn't seem to make sense, don't automatically buy into it. Establish your own opinion. Figure it out how what somebody says aligns with your own values, and then become self-aware.
You gave us great words today. You gave us self-aware. I really want to thank you for coming on, Mike. You've been a great guest. You're a great guy. You have a great, I think, a future. Again, how long, I don't know. You're getting to that over 50 mark.
I'm 50 young. Come on. I got plenty of time.
I hear you. I love that. Good for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Mike Kalb, who's a success story, who made it libertarian now. And he's going to be running for office. And when he runs, he's going to tell us, and we're going to come on here and announce it. Can we do that?
If the train heads down the track in that direction.
Wow, is he good? He could be a politician. See how he ducked that answer? No, all right. I want to thank you, man. Great, you are a great guy. Keep it. I think you gave great advice, and I do that all the time.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe. Keep making good choices. Think before you act, and have a great day.